complain at the ripe old age of 14. Everyone in the back, can I have your attention, please? All right. He thinks that the Hyperloop should be called the Hype-a-Loop. He once inadvertently insulted Sigourney Weaver. Really curious how that happened. So everybody, please help me welcome X Prentice.
Hey everybody. All right, so, I think fuck-ups vary. I gotta get that out of the way. So I'm so used to getting up on stage and talking to people and trying not to say the word fuck because I say it a lot in normal conversations. So I'm gonna struggle with that a little bit tonight. So some fuck-ups are really severe and they'll destroy a business or set you back 6 months of research time. And some fuck-ups are small and may seem insignificant at the time, but they compound and they have far-reaching, deep sort of implications for your organization. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you don't know who I am, just allow me to introduce myself quickly. So President and CEO of Ample Organics, we're a cannabis tech company. Today we drive 75% of the Canadian marijuana industry. We've shipped over 880,000 orders to patients all across the country to make sure sick people get their medicine. And of course, if you're like me, you're super excited for recreational cannabis coming this year. So that's pretty awesome stuff. We've had a tremendous growth over the last, companies are coming up on 4 years. August 1st will be 4 years old. And we're now just crossing 85 people. We'll probably be 150 people by the end of the year. So we've built this pretty cool, pretty fast-growing, crazy corporation, and we fucked up a lot along the way. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. So why don't we just dive right in and start at the beginning, which is this. So this is what we do. This is what we track, and we move these cannabis plants all around the country and kind of follow that for traceability purposes and so on and so forth. And this is really the first problem. So common problem for most startups, no money. So when I started the company in 2014, I had probably $35,000 in my checking account, which is more than some other people have started businesses with, but that certainly is not a lot of money for a software company. So I can literally remember sitting at my dining room table, which is where I started everything with 2 employees, and just about crying, writing out a $1,400 paycheck. And that was pretty challenging. So having capital to start a business is very important because it allows you to scale and allows you to grow and allows you to execute on ideas, but it's not necessary, but it does have implications. And what those implications were missed payroll periods. I think in our first year of operation, we missed 6 of them. Fortunately for the employees who missed those payroll periods, they're now some of our largest shareholders, so they're very happy guys. It pays off in the end. The other problem with not having any money is, of course, you don't have an office, so you get to work at a dining room table, which is super fun. So the second we got our first check-in from a customer, of course, we took an office. And that was really the first starting point of our business. And it wasn't until May of 2016, so almost 2 years after starting the business, that we actually went out and raised our first meaningful amount of capital. It wasn't a large amount of capital. In fact, the person who wrote the check is in this room, and his fuck-up was that it wasn't big enough. So, so once we had that money, now it was time to go really, really, really fast. And that introduces a whole slew of new problems. So you begin to hire people, and you begin to add new products, and you begin to add new features, and pretty soon you've got guys who've been there for a month teaching guys who've been there for 3 days. And the in-education sort of ripples through the organization, and you end up with a bunch of staff that really are novice, they're new, they're learning bad habits from other newbies, and as you can imagine, that sort of ripples through the organization. The other problem with going fast is that you're basically making promises to customers that you're not really sure that you can deliver on. And that's really challenging. So, we've obviously let some customers down in the process of doing that, and that's a fuck up that obviously has some pretty serious ramifications. Fortunately, we're agile, so we were quick and easy, and we managed to dodge the bullet, and in 4 years, we've yet to lose a single customer. So now that we're going really, really fast down this road, there's lots of things we should probably be thinking about, but of course we're moving so fast that we're not thinking about plans. Like, why would we have a plan? We got shit to do. And that introduces the next layer of problem. So within our organization, we have a development team of about 35 people. And we've structured it in such a way, or we used to structure it in such a way that we had a front-end team and a back-end team. And that used to work when you had one product. Obviously that doesn't work when you're like 7 or 8 products, and now our developers have this wide knowledge set about 8 different products, but no deep knowledge into any specific one of them. So you can imagine the complications that causes in your development cycle and overall product roadmap. So just reinforcing the importance of having a plan and having a growth strategy and thinking about things strategically as you sort of move down that path. That is the result of not having a plan. Infinite frustration. Frustration from your customers, frustration from your account managers, frustration from your executive team, frustration from your finance team, because everything is on fire, everybody's fighting fires, and nobody's getting anything productive done to actually push the company forward. And those were some of the challenges that we were facing. So then we promised our customers the world. We said, any problems that you have, we'll fix it. Let's keep you guys on and make sure that we're able to deliver everything that you're asking for. And in this clusterfuck of rapid growth and people not talking to one another and siloed communication, promises get missed and things get dropped. And sort of this feeds into this giant feedback loop that's all stems from being under-resourced, not having a plan, and accelerating and growing super quickly. And those are some of the biggest challenges that we faced at Ample Organics and some of the fuck-ups along the way. The next fuck-up we made is software licensing agreements. One problem of not having resources and not having time to put a plan in place is that if you're not writing plans, then you're definitely not thinking about contracts and legal and all the stuff that needs to be in place about the business. So pretty soon you end up with this pretty basic end-user licensing agreement that you're going to license your software out on. And it's just riddled with loopholes. So next thing you know, you've got your clients building custom apps, and then the custom apps break, and they're calling into your support department going, hey, why is nothing working? Well, we didn't make that, so that was kind of the challenge. So basically, the other thing that happens is your organization gets bigger and becomes, faster, and you have more opportunity presented on the table. And I think this is the mistake that we're most guilty of all of them, and probably the biggest fuck up we've ever made, is that this is the biggest load of shit I've ever seen. The reason I say that is because, you can't actually take every opportunity that comes your way.
Fuck yeah.
So if you do that, you will fuck yourself left, right, and center. So as much as we want to grow our businesses and move faster and do more and make things happen, you still have to be strategic, have a plan, have resources, and have the legal contracts in place to exercise on those opportunities. And that's something that, only in the past 24 months have we really figured out and started to adopt within Ample Organics. People often sort of think that inspiration is, the kind of starting goal behind any startup, and that they're absolutely right. But there's also a level of methodical thinking. And the key thing is to separate those two pieces. The inspiration comes at the beginning, and the methodical thinking comes after. Business is very much like a chess game. You're laying out your pieces, you're laying out your resources, and you're setting the war plan for what's going to come next and kind of move through the next phases of growth. And if you're not thinking methodically, you're not thinking about that chess game. It's not about pie-in-the-sky ideas or inspiration or all the fun things that the company could do and all the opportunities that are sitting in front of you. It's about actually sitting down and grinding out the work and coming up with a plan and a strategy for implementing the changes that you need to make in order to have a successful vision and a successful organization. So kind of the message of what I'm saying is that here we are, we're on a successful track record, we're growing really fast, we have all this great stuff going on. You can still do that regardless of how many fuck-ups you make along the way. And not every fuck-up is the end of your business or the end of your organization or the end of your story. Some of them are just the beginning. If I hadn't moved to Toronto because I met a girl on the internet, and if I hadn't, freaked out the first time I saw her smoke a joint in the park, because I wasn't a cannabis user growing up. I think I could probably count on the number of times I encountered cannabis on one hand. I think actually in high school when I was 14 years old, another fuck up. I tried to buy cannabis from a schoolmate. Obviously, 14-year-olds are super knowledgeable about weed. He sold me oregano. So for the rest of my high school career, I was my nickname was Oregano Boy. So all of these things sort of lead into other things. So you basically these series of mistakes sometimes lead you on a path of success. And I think it's really important to sort of have the wherewithal and the perception of where it kind of from outside your body, so to speak, that third person view into what's going on around you to be able to recognize that sometimes those mistakes are critical for your success. And as a serial entrepreneur, I've had failed startups. My first business was computer gaming centers, and we had 5 locations across Ontario. I won Entrepreneur of the Year in 2008 for starting it, and we went from probably $70,000, $80,000 a month of spinning cash flow into the bank account to a day in February of 2010 where our total sales across the entire organization were $1.25. And that was because I bought a Coke out of the fridge. So, fuck-ups happen. Some are severe, some are not. But ultimately, the experience that you gain from them and everything that you take from every lesson that you learn will feed you to be successful in the future. And I think that's the most important takeaway that I can leave you with today.
Thank you so much for that, John. So I think we're all going to call you Oregano Boy from now on. So questions for Oregano Boy?
Joe.
Which function in the company did you underestimate the importance of to the greatest degree?
All of them. I think when you start a small organization and you have a software developer and a designer sitting at your table and it's just 3 of you, everything that you need to do can be done amongst those 3 people. And then when you now have 85 or 90 clients to service, you kind of think that your sales guys should do the job. But then you realize your sales start plummeting because they're too busy taking care of your existing business and not looking for new business. So then you introduce account managers. So I think across the organization, there's many areas where, I'd never run a software company before. So I'd done software development projects in my professional career and things like that, but I'd never, especially not a software company of 80 plus people. So, things like account management, product teams, how to structure a dev team, how to implement an agile development methodology, and all of these different pieces and the actual infrastructure that needs to be in place to drive those processes within the workplace, they're really easy not to pay attention to. And I think, being a CEO or being a leader of an organization is not just about the flashy opportunity and the opportunity to grow a business and make money, but it's also about understanding the granular level foundation that you need to build in order to support the business.
Where do you think you kind of learn those fundamental business skills as an entrepreneur? You have this idea that you have to run an actual organization and you need to know about all the different ways that your company needs to build. Where do you get that knowledge? Is it best to take a business degree or hire somebody in?
Just to be clear, I'm a high school dropout, so I don't think a post-secondary education or a business degree is going to teach you anything about running a business. Maybe a little bit. Maybe how to read the books or how to look at a balance sheet or income statement, but it's not actually going to give you intuition to make good decisions. And you can see that all the time. You see MBAs start businesses and they just, So I think that ultimately what you have to do is step off the fucking cliff and just do it. Get in there and actually start learning by experiencing, and know that you really have to think about your business like it's your life and like it's all consuming. You have to be looking at it from every angle all the time, and if you're thinking about other things at any point during the day, you're probably in the wrong business.
What inspired you to start the startup?
The cannabis startup.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my wife, the girl I met on the internet, she suffers from IBS and anxiety. And so, before this whole medical marijuana thing really took off in Canada, she was buying illicit cannabis and self-medicating. And while she was touring, she used to be a publicist, and she worked with people like Hillary Clinton and Stephen King. So while she was touring Hillary Clinton, one of the big concerns was sort of, don't want cannabis around the Secret Service. It's probably not going to go that well, right? So, that, and I was working in professional IT. I wore a suit to work every day, and the thought of her hitting a bong before I left the house and kind of stinking me up and going into work smelling like weed really scared me. So I made her quit for 30 days. And I saw her go from a perfectly normal, happy person to panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. And I realized that this was something that could really make a difference for people. Whether that was, simple kind of issues like, I shouldn't say simple issues, but basic issues like anxiety or things like that, or really, really terminal severe things like cancer and other things. Not to diminish the significance of either. But I wanted to make sure it was safe. I wanted to know that there wasn't pesticide in there, or there wasn't mold, or mildew, or microbiological stuff, bacteria. It's if you don't know where you're buying that from, for all you know, they're putting diesel oil in the soil because they think it's some fancy nutrient that's going to help their plants flush or something. So that was really the impetus for starting Ample, was to make sure that Canadians had access to safe, controlled, and traceable cannabis.
What was the story behind your first sale or client?
Sure. So, so the first sale, when I started the business, I'd met a guy, and he decided that he's going to take us down and introduce us to one of the growers here in Canada. And I should say, when we started the company, and the reason our wallet was empty is because there were 12 licenses in the country. So when we went to raise money, people were like, "What the fuck, you're going to service 12 customers? Like, what are you doing?" So now there's like 105, and we're working with like 600 companies in the queue, so it's going to get a lot better. But it was a really, really snowy day. We went out, we met this guy in Burlington, and he drove us all the way out to Leamington, Ontario to meet with Afria. Afria, as you may or may not know, is one of the largest licensed producers in Canada. Their canopy space is over 1 million square feet. That's very large. So we went in there and we pitched them on basically a PowerPoint presentation and a like pretty basic piece of software. But I think they saw we were hungry. They saw that we were willing to work with them, and we completely underpriced ourselves, not knowing any better. So I guess I'd forgotten how much an ERP system costs. So I think they looked at it as an opportunity to work with a group that was really passionate and really hungry to actually get into the space and that would do what they needed. And we signed them, and that was, the rest is history. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.